Go to badboymembership.com. You'll go from not getting what you want when it comes to you dealing with women to actually getting what you want, to being the guy women want to be with, women want to date, women want to have sex with. All you need to do is go to Bad Boy.
Indeed. Your mother's final accomplishment that she whispered in your ear was judge. Is that a goal, a long-term goal of yours? And if so, when do you give yourself a timeline on when to achieve that goal?
I don't have a timeline on it, and at one point I would say to myself, I have to be a judge by this time, or I have to be a judge by this age. And the older I've gotten, I've just seen there's so much to be done here. Yeah. And so I think that eventually I'll get there, but it's not something that I'm putting a rush on or a clock on. I'm just out here, teaching the law, practicing, loving what I do, because now I get to do work that I love, right? And not just prosecute cases because they're handed to me kind of thing, and really enjoying being a lawyer again.
Right. I want to transition into the brother Polight, Michael Noack situation. You had an excellent breakdown. I watched the whole thing. It was about an hour or something long on your channel. Could we kind of can you take us A through B through that case and what, intrigued you to even to investigate that case?
Absolutely. So I moved to New York in 2015. And the minute I came to New York, I started exploring Harlem. For some reason, I've always loved Harlem. So I started exploring Harlem. And of course, who I see when I'm navigating Harlem. I mean, I would see like Red Pill and Blue Pill and Sonetter and all these people out there. And so I would think, oh, who are these people? So I started looking them up and I saw them on YouTube. And so I would loosely be aware of certain rhetoric and certain people. And that is how I originally became aware of Brother Polight, right? Brother Polight, initially. Now, when all of these things happened, a lot of people were contacting me like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I had so many people in my personal life and also people I knew from YouTube contacting me like, hey, I really think you should consider discussing this because people are saying really crazy things online. People are saying things like the 14-year-old girl gave consent. People are saying things such as, well, the mother gave the 14-year-old girl consent. And I'm thinking that's concerning and wrong and crazy. So after getting all of these messages with misinformation and people asking me, can you clear this up? I said, you know what? I will get on and speak about it and clear it up. And so I did so. And I said at the end of the video that I hesitate to make any definitive statements and that it pains me to make the type of statement I'm about to make. And then I said, I think the conscious community has a blankalization, that's what I said, of minors problem. And a problem with turning a blind eye to men having some type of affinity for girls that are not of age.
Wow. So, okay, so we get the information and everybody gets it. It comes along that he was arrested, supposedly, assaulting a 14-year-old girl. You talk about it. So let's break down the case. How do you feel about the case? What is he facing? What are the charges? You did a whole breakdown on your channel. Can you kind of just give our audience, that whole view of the whole situation as you see it?
Absolutely. So he is facing 2 felonies and a misdemeanor. According to what you can see on the Miami-Dade clerk's office, and you can kind of get a brief overview of the arrest and the charges, it appears that he's facing 1 count of each charge. So pretty much they're just saying that this happened one time. They're not accusing him of having any type of ongoing assault of this girl or ongoing relationship with this girl. His charges, like I said, 2 felonies, 1 misdemeanor. One of the felonies, which is battery of a person who is a minor between the ages of 12 to 18, there's a potential to have a life sentence there if they can prove certain aggravating circumstances, which pretty much just means if they can prove that he did some things that were especially bad. And there are 2 of the aggravating circumstances in their law that could have been present in the accusations against Polight. One being if the defendant drugs the minor victim in any way, which makes her allegedly incapacitated, that's an aggravating circumstance. And then I believe the other is if they use any type of force against the minor. Don't quote me on that because I'm going off of memory at this moment.
Right, right.
But we know for sure that the victim alleges that something happened in the way of her being incapacitated, because she alleges that she passed out at some point. And the rhetoric provided from the mother allegedly is that she knew something wasn't right with the minor because when she came home, she wasn't in all her faculties. She was stumbling. She appeared to be kind of out of it. So we know that they're setting it up for the accusation that she was drugged in some way. And that sets up the potential that on that one charge alone, he be given a life sentence.
Right. So let's go into the the accusation is made. They say this happened back in February, but then they put out a DNA warrant, which means they have to go in and I guess take his body faculties and compare it, to what was allegedly found. I think they said it was like 6, semen prints or something found. So my question is, I think I heard you say this. I want you to clarify it. The DNA, if they took him in, he took the DNA and it matched. Would that be the only way they can get an arrest? And was that the reason why he got arrested?
So the process is victim reports, rape kit is completed, which takes all of the samples.
Okay.
That is used as probable cause, which is then brought to a judge. Your Honor, the government believes that we have probable cause for a DNA warrant. On such and such date, victim such and such made these allegations. We then completed a rape kit. Based upon these allegations and this kit, we would like to get this defendant's DNA to see if we can substantiate these claims. Keyword, substantiate. So the judge will say, okay, you have probable cause. I will grant you the warrant to get the DNA to see if the claims are substantiated. In other words, if the DNA matches. You get the DNA warrant, you then get the DNA from the defendant, and then you test. If in fact the DNA does not match, you have not met the requisites that you discussed with the judge. Because the conversation you had with the judge is, Your Honor, we'd like to get this DNA warrant. We believe that this defendant is the person who perpetrated this crime. And because of that, we'd like the DNA. So there are levels of proof. So think of it this way. The first step is when that victim comes in and makes the report. Mm-hmm. The second stair is when you go to the judge and you ask for the DNA warrant. You cannot get to the third step on the staircase if that DNA does not match.
Now, hypothetically, what if there wasn't DNA? How would the because it's instances where things happen and there's not DNA. So how do they find a burden of proof to arrest somebody when there's no DNA?
So if there isn't DNA, then you look for other things. You look for marks on the victim. You perhaps get surveillance from the hotel, right, to show the victim going into the hotel room with this person. You get other forms of corroboration if there isn't DNA.
Got it.
I'm good.
Where do you see this case going? I know it's early, and you talked about also, the possibility of someone pleading out. What would a pleading out look like in a situation when there's DNA involved? Does somebody say, you know what, I'm going to admit to this and this, to kind of take a lesser charge and a lesser, sentence?
Well, there's a number of things that could happen. Polight's attorneys could make an offer to the government themselves. They could say, my client is willing, because his lowest charge is contributing to the delinquency of a minor. And it's a misdemeanor. And it isn't as I say on my channel, intimate offense, right? Mm-hmm. So perhaps his attorneys could go to the government and say, my client would like to plead guilty to contributing to the delinquency of a minor. He maintains that he did not do anything intimate with the young lady. He doesn't know if maybe somehow things got on her clothing because she was in the bathroom throwing up or whatever the excuse would be, right? And then the government would say to themselves, well, let's see how strong our case is. And it would come down to how strong they felt their case is. Because more than likely, if they go and think about it and they think, I have a pretty solid case, they're not going to be as likely to want to make any kind of deals with him. So his attorney could make the deal, or they could evaluate their case and they could say, yes, we have the DNA, but we have a young victim. We don't want to further traumatize her. All she wants is for him to be away from her. So maybe we offer him the misdemeanor and a 5-year order of protection that says he has to stay away from this victim.
I do have one more question. I forgot my question. When you look at the situation, and you made a powerful statement in the beginning of this segment when you said that you believe this may be a problem within the conscious community altogether, not just a singular Polight situation. Correct me if I'm wrong. Why do you feel that way, in your opinion?
So over the years, as I said, first becoming not affiliated, first becoming familiar with the conscious community in 2015, I've just seen too many teachers in the community argue that marrying 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds is okay.
Yeah.
I've seen too many leaders, such as the infamous Dr. York, arrested for these horrible things and then still having followers. I mean, I have personally met a follower of Dr. York who will argue you to the death about how this man is still a god and that everything he did was okay.
Yeah.
And it's shocking to me because these are not monsters that live under your bed. I mean, this guy that I know is one of the sweetest guys I know. He's so chivalrous. He's like this, hey goddess, how are you? You know, so one of the most awesome people that I know outside of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I start talking to him about Dr. York and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have gone off the deep end, you know? So I started to realize that it could be a problem in the conscious community. And it could be that the leaders are brainwashing the followers because they have issues and now they're brainwashing their followers into thinking that it's okay. You know, it's fine. And you'll have people who are normally very decent, as I said, you know, respectful, kind, you know, amazing people who they enter the realm of this conscious community and they just become blind, even though they love to say that they're woke.
Appreciate that though.
And even the ironic part, I don't know if you knew this, but Polight was a former student of Malachi York.
Very ironic. And I did not know that until recently when these old videos started to surface. And I had a flashback to my conversation with the amazing young man that I met years ago. Mm-hmm. I was in law school when I met him. I think probably 2013 or 2014 when I met this guy. Amazing guy. Sweetest guy ever. Mm-hmm. Until you start talking about Dr. York. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, oh my, it was crazy some of the things he would say. He's like, well, I know they had all this evidence against him, but, you know, what did he say? He said something crazy. Some type of Boondocks. I don't know if you guys ever watched Boondocks, the cartoon, but he said some type of weird Boondock statement, like, you know, the evidence is not the absence of innocence.
Oh, boy.
Really weird stuff. And I was like, I feel like I'm in a bad Boondocks episode. Like, no, this man, come on. You can't just say he did it and say it was wrong.
Right.
No.
So you didn't see the clip of Polight on the internet talking about Malachi York, did you?
I actually did see that. Someone sent it to me. They sent me that as well as Polight on a show with his wives.
Okay.
And one of the wives was saying that she met him when she was 16.
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah, definitely. Now, one more with this case. The implication of others that may have known, you know, this and didn't say anything, whether it be i.e. the wives, anybody. Talk about that aspect of this case too, or other people that may have known and didn't say anything about it.
So, as I had mentioned, you know, briefly in my breakdown, you know, it's one thing to have a case in which you say that a defendant assaulted a minor in some way in this one instance. And yes, that in itself could result in a conviction. But prosecutors, especially prosecutors who try these types of crimes, they want to prove a pattern of behavior because they understand that it makes their case stronger. That is why in Bill Cosby's case, you saw them trotting out accusers who had nothing to do with the actual case. And people were getting really upset, like, well, how do these people get to testify? He's only being prosecuted for this person. Right. Well, in these types of crimes, prosecutors like to establish a pattern of behavior because it is widely held and widely understood that a quote unquote sex offender is someone who does these things repeatedly. It's a psychological condition. It's something they do over and over again. So most prosecutors want a stronger case by establishing a pattern, which means they have to go into things he's done previously, which means they're going to want to speak to people he's affiliated with to kind of find out, okay, well, what is the truth behind his past behavior? Is there past behavior that I can use to establish modus operandi, which will get me the exception I need to trot out all of his past behavior in this case and make my case stronger via proving that he has the pattern of sexually deviant behavior?
Powerful. Well, I got a lot more questions, but we'll save it for another show. We definitely appreciate the beautiful Miss Pearson, attorney, in the building today on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Real quick, go ahead and drop your practice, your social media links, or any lasting words that you have for our audience, please.
Oh, absolutely. So you can find me on YouTube at Empowered Esquire TV.
Yes.
You can email me. It's my name, so it's PHYLICIA Pearson@gmail.com. That's my email. And you can also find me on www.weareabovethebar.com.
Also, and did you know Chief, a guy by the name of Chief X by any chance?
I do.
Okay, shout out to him because that's how I seen your video on his channel, Chief
Awesome.
X.
Yes, shout out to him. Absolutely. By the way, I have 50 million ring lights on, so I'm constantly patting myself. But yes, definitely shout out to Chief X. He is awesome. And I've been subbed to his channel and seeing his content and spoken to him on the phone before, and he's always encouraging and supportive, and he's great.
Definitely
appreciate you. Yeah, such a wealth of knowledge. Definitely need to have you back on very soon. Appreciate it. The beautiful Miss Felicia Pearson Esquire,
yes,
on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Thank you very much for the information and the insight. Salute to you.